A lot of you have asked for a follow-up on my Lobotomy Corporation video, talking more about my thoughts on the game, my personal opinions, and honestly, I'd be glad to do so. This was supposed to be the end of my journey with the game, a nice little bow I could tie, a chapter in my life finished, and finally I could delete 1.5 terabytes of footage. But now I'm not sure I'm ready to say goodbye. After 102 hours, I still feel like the game has one last thing to teach me. I have so many questions left unanswered, but for this video there's one question I have to ask in particular, and actually it's a really hard question to ask. Is Lobotomy Corporation a good game? The gameplay, the story, the bosses, I loved all of it, but in different ways and to varying degrees. So to make things fair, I'll be talking about the gameplay separately from the story, because there's a dark undercurrent to Lobotomy Corporation that's still haunting me. Today I want to talk about what worked, what didn't, and why I still find myself thinking about the game even weeks after finishing it, and what it was exactly about Lobotomy Corporation that drove me to playing Library of Ruina just days after completing the game. Let's start with the gameplay. At first it seems simple. Manage the abnormalities by doing the correct work type that you find out through trial and error and slowly unlocking more information on these horrific monsters. Through this work you collect the required daily energy demands, or making sure everybody survives. Straightforward, right? But as time goes on we have to manage a lot of abnormalities, ranging from a Z in difficulty level all the way up to LF. We also have to face off against ordeals, which have their own difficulty levels. Sadly though, as the days got longer, I started to feel like the gameplay was repeating itself a little bit too much. It seems simple because it is simple. There's only so many times I can watch, for example, the same animation of an abnormality breaking out before it starts to feel, well, redundant. One of my biggest complaints about Lobotomy Corporation was the UI design. So let's talk about that for a second. Not being able to see HP and sanity in the early game feels like a really strange design decision. But by the time you're deep into the game, using clever tricks like elevator stacking, your nuggets are stacked on top of each other, and now you're left with a new issue, where all the health bars are sitting on top of each other, and you still can't see how healthy anybody is. This annoyance certainly caused me a lot of resets. And the controls, man, I hated that once you gave nuggets an order, they deselected. It made the really hard fights almost impossible, especially given how badly the game performed as you got closer to the end game. Bosses like Gebura, for example, were close to impossible. So let's talk about the bosses a bit, because Gebura, wow, she was an absolute wall for me, one of the hardest challenges in any game I've ever played. Her introduction was such a shock to me. I swear that my eyes might have genuinely fallen out of their sockets. I went full on Tom and Jerry mode. David H. Jones! It certainly caught me off guard. Though appearances aside, her fight for me is one of the most memorable fights in gaming history. The difficulty level of this fight was the single largest spike I've ever witnessed. I spent an entire day fighting her, and I'm not talking about a few hours. I mean, I woke up at 9 AM, kept playing, and didn't stop until past midnight, and still nothing worked. I tried everything. Nuggets stacked in an elevator shot up with damage resistance ampules? Yeah, didn't work. What about a small elite squad of LF units? Also didn't work. Okay, what about a single unit with censored weapons so they heal, and white knight's armor for the max defense? Okay, that one might have eventually worked, but it was really slow because of Gebura's resistances. Because I was so worried that at any moment in this final attempt, if I stopped paying attention, it could have all been over. So, day 2 rolled around, I was going to have to use any trick I could get my hands on. I resorted to a strategy I saw in Discord chat: hide in a shelter and let LF level abnormalities take care of her. The funny thing was that I ended up with all 3 of the birds during this run. So every time I tried this, the Apocalypse bird would inevitably attack me. Which is really annoying because when I actually wanted to face the Apocalypse bird, it took me 6 or 7 resets to get Big Bird. So the only way I was going to do this was I had to reset to get rid of the birds, and that way I could actually speed up the fight. It was chaos, but hey, it worked. And I'll be honest, I really don't like cheesing fights. This fight and a Ricardo fight from Limbus Company have actually stuck in my mind ever since. It's gotten to the point where I want to make a new account in Limbus Company, only using base IDs to see if I can actually beat Ricardo properly. But for Lobotomy Corporation, I will never, ever forget the Gebura fight. By now though, I figured it out pretty quick. Once I realised she didn't teleport like Gebura, I could just use the rabbits to keep her locked down while I work on the meltdowns. The ever-loyal bunnies of destruction, I called them. They carried me through so much of this game. But still, sometimes they would just shoot her a little bit and leave. Or they'd beat phase 1 and leave. Or they'd just get absolutely slaughtered and leave. It was really, really frustrating, but kind of hilarious too. You just never know what you're going to get with this game. For me though, the best thing about Binder's Suppression was the soundtrack. The violins and Binder's theme seemed so beautiful and epic to me. I knew the moment I heard it, I wanted to use it for my final act. There are so many good themes and soundtracks in this game, but Binder's Suppression really stood out for me. It was the perfect theme of the last boss before going into the final 5 days. The build up to these fights were honestly one of the most emotional gripping scenes I've ever witnessed. And I think having the insane emotional build up with these character stories is what makes these fights have so much meaning. I know that I've seen a comment in almost every Limbus video and most of my Lobotomy Corporation posts asking that if I cried. And the truth is, no. I've always been very good at disconnecting myself from games, TV, film, anime. Subconsciously I know that I'm just watching a piece of fiction. So I have never cried watching something or playing something. There has been the odd book that's captivated me though. When I'm reading a book and I get into it, it's no longer like words on a page. It's almost like there's a film playing out in my head and I am the main character. For this reason, books seem to really resonate well with me, which is probably why I don't actually read very much, because when you get to the end of it, you are left with a horrible sinking feeling. But here's the secret. When Lobotomy Corporation ended and the last few cantos I've played finished, that's the feeling I've been left with. I actually cared about these Sephiroth stories a lot, and not all of them for the same reason. Lobotomy Corporation is more than just a management sim with weird bosses. It's a gut punch. I mean, take Chesed for example. Watching him break under Angela's orders was genuinely hard to watch. He was this kind, gentle character, and seeing him fall apart all because of what he was forced to do, that hit me harder than I expected it to. Then there's Tifereth, not the girl but the boy. He's the one that I really connected with. The way that he overthinks everything sort of trapped in his own head. I've been there, I think a lot of us probably have. So for me, out of all the Limbus Company characters, out of the Lobotomy Corporation characters, he resonated with me much more than anybody else has. And Angela, yeah, she's a tough one. She scares the absolute hell out of me. People say that she hated A, but I don't think that's the full story. She resented what she was made to be, a machine, but she also admired him. And yet, I never knew if I could trust her. And I don't think I ever will. And I've taken that with me into library. At any minute I feel like she's gonna snap. Finally then, the story. It's complicated. Really complicated. But I wouldn't say it's overly complicated. I beat the game in 102 hours, but now I have 123 hours of playtime, because I had to spend an extra 20 hours working on the script and trying to understand the story. The twists, the turns, it's all there, but Project Moon hides some of it in plain sight. It's a secret that we, the player, are meant to be in on. Why did I do this? I think it's to serve as a distraction from the true dark secrets hidden deep within Lobotomy Corporation. The ending twists of X is A, so obvious, but I think you spend so much time thinking about that twist that's clearly coming, you don't notice the subtle hints of what's really happening in Lobotomy Corporation. For example, what are abnormalities? Ordeals? What's Cogito, the bucket? The well? Later on we learn that Lobotomy Corporation is a wing, meaning it's a very powerful conglomerate with its own singularity. And our singularity is the ability to create abnormalities out of humans. However, some abnormalities are actually naturally occurring, such as the 3 birds. The Black Forest is one such area that these abnormalities leak out from. The final scene of this tale reveals the purpose of the energy, in the form of a massive beam of light shot up into the sky. And then, the credits roll. And that ending, it left me with this feeling that I can't shake off. It wasn't just relief that the hardest game that I've ever played, that I had just beaten, was finally over. There was something more underneath. It was almost this like emptiness, I guess. It's like something had just been taken away from me. And when I finished, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I felt kinda lost. So I just started to work on the script for the video. It's funny, isn't it? You get to the end of a game like this and part of you feels free. It's finally over. But the other part, it's like this craving you just can't ignore. I wanted more. I needed more. I want to learn the next part of the story. And so a couple of days go by and I start my first stream for Library of Ruiner, just to see what happens next. So, what's the verdict? Would I recommend it? Is Lobotomy Corporation a good game? Honestly, I don't know. It's not for everybody. But for me, it was an experience that I will never forget. It challenged me, frustrated me, and at times made me feel like I was losing my mind. But it's also one of the most unique games that I've ever played. And in the end, I even bought my brother a copy of it. Partially because it's hilarious to watch somebody else going through it, but also because deep down, yeah, it is a good game. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. Otherwise, thanks for joining me on my Lobotomy Corporation journey. I hope to see you all in the next library stream. Until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye bye.